Mothers are the queens of the castle, but let's be real, it's not all ball gowns and glass slippers.
On this podcast, we're giving you a peek behind the throne at the privilege and responsibility of wearing the crown. My name is Helen Hope Kimbrough, and I'm a proud wife and mom of 2 adult sons.
And I'm Charlitta Hatch, a proud wife, married to my high school sweetheart, and a proud mom to 2 little ones. Get ready as we share jewels with each other
and you around all things connected to motherhood. So, the journey is real. It's never ending. And there is moments of silence. There's moments of, crying. But again, there is moments of laughter and kind of remembering certain things. And so I did want to talk about what are some ways that you've managed, your journey, to walk through grief and this pain, that, is still settled inside of us. So I'll ask you that, Monique.
I think I'm still managing it. I think you always will be managing it. I think it's phases of it. And I think one of the things, and then I'll share some practical things, that I had to embrace early was I'm not the same person. I'm the same person, but not the same person. The term I have for that now is your identity is reconstructed. I was reading a book and they talk about with grief, you have identity reconstruction. Because I've been searching for a term and my husband say you'll turn any topic into a certificate. So
a thesis.
And she'll read 1,000 books
and
on it.
He's like, you read all the books, you done made your own certificate program. All you need to do is do the curriculum and that is my personality, y'all. So I read a lot of books there were a lot of books on grief. That's how I can deploy books out to everybody and all of that. And so one of the terms that I found was, because I was trying to grasp, I'm not the same person, but I am the same person. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
And the term identity reconstruction really resonated with me. They also talk about that when, I also think about how I can be supportive to my dad, who's 80 and left. Him and my mom got married coming out of college, 50 plus years. And how it's not just your life is reconstructed, your identity as a person is reconstructed. I was like, yes, that's the term. So I feel like you're still managing it. And I had to accept that I was just going to be different.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the quiet time. So I'm like an ambivert. So I think the only child in me, because I grew up as an only child. So I can have a ball by myself. So I can go to dinner, if I'm at a conference or work. So I used to have coworkers who are like, you can go eat dinner by yourself? I'm like, absolutely.
Me too.
And have a ball. And a good time. And if I want to be around people, I'll just go to the bar and, and just do. So I can do both. But I retreated in a way, but similar to you, I knew there was a line between retreating too much, but I also would verbalize to people that, and in a way where my husband was great. Sometimes he would reach out or people reach out to him how's she do? He told me all this after the fact, but he was great in covering me in that, way. But I think your identity is different. And first I had to realize that and be okay with that and not try to feel a shame or guilt because I wasn't the same person.
Yeah.
I didn't really, you talked about laughing and smiling. I don't think I smiled for a picture for months. And I didn't realize that until after the fact. There were a couple times I remember pictures were being taken. I just couldn't smile in it. And it wasn't anything related to, it was just, it might've been work or it might've been, and I just, no. I look back and it's a very fake smile.
Yeah.
And then I also think, my therapist, which is one of the things, and I know it's a privilege to have access to that, told me that we're going to grieve, but we're going to grieve in a healthy way. And she was like, and she was like, we're not going to be stunted in our grief and we're going to grieve in a healthy way. And your family's going, and you're going to likely have to be the conduit in many ways. I call it my trickle down therapy. So I'm like, well, you might want to look at, and so that's not what my doctorate is in, but you're going to have to be a conduit in many ways, not self-sacrificing yourself, but we also know there's some people that are not going to access that they might need to, even if they have the ability to. And she also was pretty direct with me about your life isn't going to be the same. And not in a way that was crass, but in a way to just be real so I could situate myself mentally, which I appreciate because I'm a very direct. So I appreciated this is what it's going to be. And I started, the first time I really experienced that was my mom passed in mid-February. It was June. And I had gotten an award for work that I didn't anticipate. It was a Charlotte Business Journal Most Admired CEO. You were there. Yeah. And I remember this conversation with my therapist. And she was like, I told another patient this conversation. I didn't tell her it was you. But I got the email for it. I wasn't anticipating it. And when I got it, I was thinking, I don't want this award. And I literally had my session with her that Thursday. And I was like, how can I elegantly tell these people I don't want this award? And she was like, elegantly tell them what? She was like, you're not doing that. And I was like, I don't want this. I was like, I don't see no purpose in it. Like, I just felt like my mom not being here. She was the first person I would have called. She would have been there. I just felt like no purpose, right? And that was like the first thing of that nature after she passed. And I told her, I was like, they don't know. Like, nobody knows. So, like, I haven't told anybody. I was like, I'm just going to, like, I could say I have a conflict or something. She was like, absolutely not. She was like, when you leave here, you're going to go email and accept it. And you're going to screenshot me. Because she was like, I know you. Because you be trying to sneak an email and said I have a conflict. And she basically was like, you're not happy now, but let people be happy for you.
Right.
And she said, your mother would never want you to turn down this type of thing. She was like, that is part of her legacy. You are part of her legacy. And she also was like, going forward, you're going to have more moments like these. And they're going to have a sting to it. And she was like, you're going to have to accept the joy that's going to come with a little bit of backside. And this is going to be your journey. She was like, because there's going to be more situations like this. And I've encountered that. For sure. Yeah.
And talk about how you started writing, because you started blogging also
oh my gosh.
about your journey, which I think most people were like, you know, an executive, a community person is talking about her feelings around this. How did that, you know, come to
So my mom had actually, it starts with her. She had been pushing me for like years to just start writing about leadership. So like just different things. She's like, you know, wrote this dissertation, you know, wrote this and wrote that. You ain't sharing none of it with nobody, you know. She's like, share your testimony. Like, so I'm like, well, Mom, that ain't a testimony. She's like, you still need to be sharing it. So
it's a tribute to her.
So I just started just the leadership news, just writing about just leadership. And there would be things like we talk, like I would it wasn't new stuff, but it was just putting it out there. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and start this. You know how it is. Let me go ahead and start this thing. And then when it happened, I was like, I can't go back to this space and not acknowledge what has happened.
What's happened to you.
But I wasn't I didn't feel comfortable acknowledging it strictly from the personal lens only. Because there is a part of me of like, I'm not 100% private, but I tell them like I'm semi-private in a way of like, you know, like the old school hospital room where you pull the curtain. So it's like, so we in a room together, but like I might pull my curtain there and then when I need but I'm pulling back.
My private time.
Yeah, my private time. But that's my only child. My husband teaches me, that's your only child time. My only child time. So I need to pull my curtain a little bit. So once I was ready to pull my curtain back, I had to think about what was the way that I could share it, which was most authentic to me. And it was the intersection of that. And those are the issues of my newsletter that have gotten the most, like, I'm literally now like about to like start writing about that more focused because I mean, like so many people like emailed me, like reached out and it was talking about it to your point, like folks like us, people talk about it from our personal perspective, which is nothing wrong with that. But really navigating the different identities, I think that's part of it. But that's how it started. And I was like, I wouldn't be authentic if I went back and didn't acknowledge what happened in a way that felt good for me.
I like how you're talking about the change and shift in identity because I think, like I said, I'm the, new person in this. I feel like that's me, like right now. Like sometimes I don't even know how to show up. Or sometimes I don't want to be seen. Or, have people come up or ask, a whole bunch of questions about certain things.
I felt everybody was looking at me.
Yes.
And asking you, how are you doing? And you want to scream at them, how you think I'm doing?
Or even randomly, like I remember because I was, my parents were in Raleigh, so I was spending a lot of time there and going back and forth. But like even going to I felt like, does everybody know? Like it was just this weird feeling of like all the eyes on me and like not really wanting nobody to ask, but then being like, do y'all sitting here getting y'all milk and eggs and y'all not know my mom passed?
Right.
Like, and that's all my therapist was like, that's all normal because your world has
Yes.
changed, but then you realize the world is still going on.
Yeah.
Like, as it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your world
But
has
how
been rocked.
could it?
Yes. Like, how can you be over there in the
Yeah.
checkout line, in the self-checkout, getting your milk and eggs, and I'm sitting here about to cry in the car, you know, because I done thought
My
about something at the
world
grocery
is
store
not the
that
same.
she,
Yes.
and you act like your day is fine, because it is, you know.
Yes, yes. And I do think people want to put a time limit
No, it's
on
not a
your
time
grief,
limit.
and it's not.
Mm-mm.
And it's just like, okay. And thankfully, you know, I received 3 weeks of bereavement leave.
Wow.
Which some people only receive 3 days.
Yes.
And I'm like, how in the world
That's
are
a different
you
conversation.
able
Yes.
to,
Yes.
you know, get back into the swing of things in 3 days?
You can't.
And even 3 weeks, I mean, you're still scratching the surface.
Right.
Yes.
But, you know, even navigating all of that, and then just the change in my identity of, you know, who I still am, but just the shifting and the changing of that is now having me, you know, sort through things in different ways.
And I think being okay, the last thing I'll say on that is like
that part,
being okay with that reconstruction. And in the early days, I had to pick and choose like what I was willing to go to, but even give caveats to say like, as of now, like I think I'm up to this, but like that can change.
It can change. Right.
So like I might pull out, and like just verbalizing that to people. And you know, sometimes people just want to know like the invitation is there. And that's how I kind of do with people that are grieving. Like the invitation is there. There's no expectation. So like if you want to come at the last minute, first minute, you know, or not at all, just know the invitation is open. And I think for those supporting people in grief, that's important to know too.
Yeah.
Because someone could be up for it at one moment, and then when the time comes, not so much. And being patient and gracious with that.
Absolutely.
There are a couple things I'd love to share along those lines. And first of all, thank you, Dr. Monique, for giving me a term. You know, reconstructing identity. That's really important, and that's a gift, another gift you've given me, my friend. For me, that I want to share about that and having and naming it, which is important. The other thing is how we show up. For me, you know, Morgan passed away in July. I really was pretty quiet the rest of that month, doing the things that we do for our loved one to celebrate their lives. And I had as you talk about the intersection of what has happened to you, because it has happened to each of us, and then what we do for work. I wasn't sure how I was going to handle all that, because again, I do the strategy stuff for marketing is a little more removed. The leadership work is very very
face
connected,
to face. Absolutely.
very connected. But I will share this other thing that happened, that intersection is I had literally about 6 weeks before everything happened with Morgan. Again, her death was very sudden. We realize now she had not been doing as well, but again, in California, so I'd last seen her in May. But in May, when I was with her, I'd had a virtual meeting with a prospective client, had some conversations that had worked. I needed to talk to their CEO. That process was continuing. By the time the initial executive came back to me to offer me an engagement, Morgan had passed away. And it was via email. And when I got the email, I responded saying, because I was at least checking email, I wasn't working.
Yeah, of course.
And I said, there's no easy way to say this. My daughter passed away suddenly. I'm not sure when I'll be back at work. If you guys need to move on, I certainly understand.
Sure, absolutely.
The response was, I am so sorry to hear that. And we will wait for you. So again, intersection. And for me, it was almost like, well, what? I almost felt a little pressure initially, but then I thought, no, this is something to go back to.
Exactly. Look forward to.
And look forward to. And again, I felt like, again, the universe was working to surround me with purpose.
Exactly.
In this reconstructed identity, which I couldn't have named it then. And that was work I ultimately did go back to probably another, I was off probably 2.5, almost 3 months. And then said, if, we set it up and it required some travel, which again was good.
Sure. Yeah,
East Coast,
absolutely.
which was great.
Mhm.
But again, and it was something new and different and working with, and again, very young executives, which again
Mhm.
gave me such purpose.
Mhm.
And again, people that didn't necessarily know, wouldn't have known Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had the choice to share what I
Yes.
wanted to
Yeah.
share, to your
Mhm.
point, Monique, and
Mhm.
what I didn't have to share.
Exactly.
And nobody was looking at me
Yes.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Which is a
we
relief.
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a safe place.
Mhm.
But talk about grateful.
Mhm.
I was so grateful for the
Mhm.
opportunity, the confidence.
Mhm.
And again, when you do this kind of work,
Mhm.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about what are we doing together?
Yeah.
And so that was very important to me. And those people, those clients are very important to me. And I smile when I think of them. And,
Yeah.
and again, the impact that happened. The other piece for me, again, the difference when you face all these different losses, for me, when I see people and they say, well, do you have children?
Mhm.
How do you answer that question? Well, I
Mhm.
answer it with, yes, we have 2.
Mhm.
We have a daughter and a son. And then I share their stories.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that I say, I had to do this yesterday. I had to say it to someone. I said, this is hard to hear.
Mhm.
We lost our daughter,
Mhm.
however, whatever the time
Sure.
frame.
Yeah.
And again, I prepare myself for what their reaction will be.
Mhm.
Yep.
I just don't know any other way to do it, though. I have to be authentic.
Absolutely.
I have to be authentic to who I am, what we're experiencing, what I've experienced, and yet I still have to be in the world. So the reconstructing identity is really an important concept.
It is.
That is part of the process and part of the support.
Yeah.
So and that will continue to evolve because I know that when you read things about grief and you hear things, the time frame thing.
Yeah.
Well, are you okay now?
Yeah.
No, I'll never
No,
be
never
okay.
be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this loss is
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
And yet the support is, you do appreciate that people are acknowledging
Yes, of course.
and acknowledging your loss.
Mhm.
How you react to it, though, is more,
Mhm.
it depends on the day.
Yeah.
It depends on the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. One thing you touched on there with the client, which I think is excellent. I think that illustrates, and this is something that our mutual friend had to remind me of. I remember having a conversation with Charlitta at the time, and I was telling her, at the time I was working Teach America, they really, from my local staff to the national team, like embrace, support. I mean, like
They were
mind blowing ways. I will never forget that and always value that among other things. But she was reminding me, and I was telling her like some of the work things. I was like, there were people I hadn't even, barely met, or I hadn't had that type of relationship, that were just doing these super thoughtful things. And she was like, you're getting back what you've put out. And like, you haven't put it out in that way, but like when you think about that and the outpouring, that's what it is. And I think that's a form of support. So even in how you show up as an executive, you're so good that they're like, okay, she's got this personal thing, we're gonna wait for her. Right? And so I think that also, that level of like that bar for yourself as a leader, as an executive, that people even in a workspace are like, give her a minute.
Yes.
And like all the things she needs, because we know when she come back, that impact, that excellence is going to be there.
And it never left.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you have to build that. The reason why I wanted to kind of drill down, you've got to build that.
You do. You do.
That's your reputation. That's your work.
Yes.
You've got to build that. You got to already have that.
Yes.
When it happens.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, talking about your TFA team, our TFA team.
Yes.
Your people
rallied
around me.
Yeah.
Because, I'm an unofficial.
Yes, she is.
Part of the team. I'm their hype woman.
Yeah, you are. Yes.
Because Monique asked me several years ago to be their MC for their Charlotte fundraiser, and put me on the map as a hype MC.
Yeah.
That'd be her next career.
I know.
Someone asked me recently, they said, we didn't know you did that. I'm like, only for TFA or anything Monique Perry-Graves asked me.
She's like, I'm a woman of many talents.
Your team
Mm-hmm.
surrounded me.
Mm-hmm.
And because all this happened,
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were able to do the April event.
Yeah, we were.
We also had in our family story that year of 2023. Talk about grief. Will lost a brother, an older brother that February. His older sister.
His sister, I remember that.
Was in
that was
hospice
around that time. Yeah,
around that time. We weren't sure if I'd even be in town.
Yeah.
She continued to hold on, but then passed away in May, and then our daughter passed away in July. So again, that whole thing of family, and I think again that whole thing of trying to think about where your family members are, acknowledging them. Acknowledging my husband's grief of losing beloved older sisters and an older sister and an older brother. The brother was not unexpected, but yet still difficult.
Still lost, yeah.
The sister was not expected at all. Will's mother lived to 103.
Wow.
This sister was the one who I thought was going to rival that.
Wow.
So far, none of the siblings have been able to. So again, handling all of that.
Yeah.
And there are days when I'm sitting in my own feeling sorry for myself. I come out of it sometimes thinking about, look at what he's had to handle in a different way. It's a loss for me as well with in-laws. But again, that thing of trying to think about what others are going through, at least for me, that helps me sometimes contextualize it if that's fair. If you felt that, and yet my therapist has said, Linda, it's not, your grief is your grief. So don't try to excuse it, and also don't try to project it. So because maybe you're projecting and trying to help somebody else because you don't want to deal with what you're dealing with.
Well, you can avoid it.
Right, and that's avoidance.
Yeah,
and
you
so
can avoid it.
again, those are all real things that are part of the journey for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll say as a PK, when we were talking about just support, and if folks who don't know PK, preacher's kid, you talk about rallying and support from national to international. Because, my parents had started through their church, Ebenezer in Athens, a school in Kenya. They did a service and recorded it for us. And I was just like, wow. But it was all of the work that, he had done and invested in that. But then just the amount of people who traveled near and far, as well to come and support that. My mom is still reading mail. She's still reading cards and she loves the stories. I think we all love the stories. And then sometimes we didn't know how he impacted.
Oh, absolutely.
That part is so critical.
Part is so important and critical. Where someone is like, your dad is the reason why I finished school, or that he paid for school, or that a person couldn't pay their rent and he paid. And I'm like, did you know he did? And we're all like, no, like we had no idea, because he wanted people to, have basically kingdom living.
Right.
Like, I don't want your life just to be mundane. I want you to thrive, and live on a bigger level. And that was instrumental. And he was also just a community builder and shaper, which I think that's the attribute that I actually received from him. So, Charlitta goes to everybody's service. So she came to one of mine because we had two services also on behalf of my dad. And she says, okay, it makes sense to me now. I understand why you're the way that you are, why you're embedded in community the way that you are because of the things that your dad did. And to me, I feel like that's the legacy, that I honor in, him. And so I wanted to end this by asking, your legacy. Like, what is your legacy that you want for people to continue to remember and honor your loved one, with. And so for me, it is all about, community and being proximate in that way, and being a voice and telling their story in ways that no one else will. And I know I have the aptitude to do that. I know I have the equitable frameworks of, doing that in an instrumental way. And I want people to be seen, valued, heard, and validated. And I know that I'm able to bring that forward. But, in closing out, what would you want your legacy of your loved one to be?
I think I always tell people, like, I like to leave things better than I found them, including people. And when I think about my mom and her impact, some of the things we're talking about now with identities, like she was a female IT executive with the state for a long period of time. So she's got this segment of folks that she helped build and cultivate their careers. And so they can say where they are. Like there was a saying about the fruit of someone's tree. And so I want my fruit to be plentiful. And so, but not just in one arena.
Yes.
Yes. And have that very much anchored by faith in many ways. So,
Wow.
Love that.
That's beautiful. I can see that about your mom. Morgan's legacy is multifaceted as well. Obviously, one of the things I always said about her is that she didn't want to be defined by the cancer.
Yeah.
And when I started writing her eulogy literally hours after she passed away, that was part of my purpose.
Yeah.
And to craft something in writing that would live on, that talked about her life. And while it wasn't as long as we'd hoped it would be, the things that she accomplished, her determination, how she made people feel, and her zest for life.
Yeah.
And how she really said, okay, I'm going to go in this direction. I'll move from here to there. And she always had a plan. The way she rallied her friends, that I believe, again, is an outcome of what I believe my mother started in me. She was an only, my mom was an only. And she always said, Linda, your friends are like family.
Yeah.
Treat them that way.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's how I've tried to live my life. And I believe Morgan felt that as well. And the support group of her friends around her, how she built community in New York. She built community in LA when they moved to LA, and how those communities have gotten to know each other and have just continued to, and will continue to surround Ross and Maddie and Will and Garrett and I. So her legacy is how she brought all these people together. Her legacy is also fun and let's go to a party.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, again, helps sustain me when I do get kind of sad and I think, okay, I got to snap out of it.
Yeah.
And think about the joy that she really always focused on finding the joy.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I see that you're wearing,
Yes, I
a
love that.
necklace.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
This necklace was waiting for me when I got home from Morgan's LA services. It says forever in my heart. And someone Jada Grandy Mock, had this made, and it was waiting for me when I got home to Charlotte. And she just said, Linda, I knew you needed something. And I probably wore it every day that first year.
Sure.
And this I happened to see it in a little bag.
Yeah.
So it says forever in your heart. And then, of course, Jada pulled, this is probably Morgan's, her LinkedIn photograph, and she pulled it for that.
Very nice.
I love that.
It's been an important
absolutely.
thing to hold on to.
Yeah, as I'm wearing my Kenya bracelet.
And you wear your Kenya
Yes,
bracelet.
yes,
And I also
yes.
have a jade bracelet that another friend gave me that brings me.
Mhm.
I rub on it a lot.
Yeah.
I get a little
Yeah, those
anxious.
memories. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, representing my hope.
Yeah, there you
Sure.
go. There you go.
So I was like, let me pull something.
Yes,
as
yes,
well.
yes.
So-
And Monique, still on my desk is one of the first cards you sent me after Morgan passed.
Mm.
And I you've just been there
Yeah.
consistently
Yeah.
Thank
as
you.
I've tried to be there for you.
Yes, as you have been, as we all have been.
And
Yes.
each of you.
Yes, yes. Well, I want to thank you both for this conversation. I can't even believe we got through it without tears, guys, because we didn't know starting out how
we were
it would
prepared.
be.
Hey,
but
the tears came, they came.
But we were prepared, and I appreciate you guys both being here and showing up for me, not just in this moment, but, you know, in all moments, you know, in my career and in community in different ways. It's so special. And again, I want people to know that we have to talk about, you know, the hard things. We have to talk about how we're feeling and not mask things, but really show up with intention and, you know, authentically. And I would also like to say, if you haven't read this book, it's
great.
amazing. It is an amazing book. Grief is Love by Marissa Renee Lee. Please pick that up because it's been a life-saving instrument and tool for me, but also for my mother and my sister as we continue to go through this process. So thanks for tuning in to the Behind the Throne podcast. We really appreciate you being here today. Show us some love, you know, as we continue to navigate this space, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Behind the Throne podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and comment below with your feedback. Check out future episodes from us as we discuss motherhood from babies to adults.